Hi, we're live here. This is Rich Lieberman, the Bay Area Media Pulse. And look, my last broadcast, I talked about in a not sort of, satirical manner, that Bill Martin, the last of the so called Core Four, I refer to them as the Core Four, pretty much seals the deal that KTVU is over. It's been over for a while. Now, look, I'm going to give you the non saccharine, the non BS, the real dope, and go through the machinations as to why, because everything here is timing in life, just like everything else. Why Bill Martin finally decided to say goodbye, sayonara, I'm done. Not that Bill Martin staying on at KTVU was going to lead KTVU out of the wilderness. It wasn't. Just as him leaving, retiring, finally looking at the handwriting on the wall that he acknowledges the joke that KTVU has become. And I say that because it's the truth. Look at what is happening there. Okay. It's become a circus. Even the people that work there, that have worked there for many, many years, understand that. And I don't put them in the negative light. Many of them work there. They're still craftsmen, they're still professional people behind the scenes. And they understand that the leadership is different, the news director is different, and they have no faith in either. In fact, KTVU is now run by a bunch of morons, schmucks, idiots, incompetent people who have no idea, not just of what KTVU used to be, but as a functioning, competent, insightful news operation. That's no longer the case at KTVU. Martin's resignation, and this has been planned for a while, and I'm going to get into the details as to what was taking place that he was responsible for and give you an insight as to what was taking place and what is taking place, and not the BS press release crap that you'll read that's out there, for example, on the Chronicle website, SF Gate, SF Chronicle. That's the bullshit, folks. Oh, we're going to talk about the retirement of one of the KTVU immortals, and they're going to talk about this and that and make Bill Martin into some weather version of Walter Cronkite. Not the case. If you want to read that and dream a little bit, go ahead. If you want to know what's behind all of this, if you want to understand what takes place in these kind of decisions, then I'd be happy to tell you, which I will. But again, if you want Disneyland, go read the Chronicle. That's Disneyland. So, first and foremost, I've criticized, lampooned, yes, Bill Martin. He's been mumbling and stumbling for years now, should have left many moons ago, stayed on, partly out of the deal that, and he knew he was ready to go. He hired, folks, I can't say this enough. Bill Martin hired fill-in and backup weather anchor Roberta Gonzalez. Remember her? She's still there as a fill-in. Why did Bill Martin hire Roberta Gonzalez? Because he knew that his time was up. He knew that he wanted to leave. I'll tell you and be specific on that in a second. He was first and foremost instrumental in hiring Roberta Gonzalez because he understood that Roberta Gonzalez is not capable of being the number one, the numero uno? Why do you think all these breadcrumbs at KTVU? People like Rosemary Orozco, not ready for prime time. And Roberta Gonzalez, fill in, perennial fill in. Martin was instrumental in Roberta Gonzalez being hired because he knew and they knew that they couldn't have a number one. Steve Paulson has been rumored to be the number one. He's in the morning. They have Tamayo, Mark Tamayo, who I would guess is one of the leading candidates, unless they've announced it. I doubt seriously they're going to bring in somebody from outside the market. It's cheaper. They've got plenty of capable people. It's not that big of a deal. You're a weather anchor. This is not a news reader. It's a weather anchor. But back to my deal with Bill Martin. And I like Bill Martin. He's read me when I was writing. He watches me and all that. Probably not as loving of me anymore because I said what was obvious. He'd lost it. He wasn't as effective. He wasn't as insightful as he used to be. And I say insightful, for God's sake. He's anchoring weather. But his style with the kind of talking and mumbling and saying a whole bunch of stuff, it wasn't fluid anymore. Dennis Richmond, long gone. Ibanez, the sports anchor, long gone. Julie Hayner, who basically stayed on because she was getting paid pretty good money, in addition to which being able to tell her friends, her social friends, and others in beautiful Contra Costa County, Danville, that she was still on KTVU News. Well, inevitably, Julie saw the handwriting on the wall. They kind of nudged her out, and she officially retired back in June of last year. The only person left was Martin. And Martin knew his time was up. He didn't have the effective communication. He understood that there was a gap between him and viewers, the very few viewers who watch the news anymore, local news. Now, was he horrific? No. Capable? Absolutely. But he wasn't anywhere near as effective as he used to be. Look, we all get older. He should have retired about 10 years ago. I heard he wanted out. You want to know why? Among the many reasons why he wanted out, he would do his weathercast at 6 o'clock. And he wanted to, and did many a times, take off from the KTVU building in Oakland so he could go home to his family in Lafayette and literally have dinner and come back after that and do, of course, the 10 o'clock weathercast. But there have been people in the building, few of the manager types, not the ones that are there right now, who weren't happy with that. So he didn't do that as much, he being Martin. But they were pissed. They were angry, so to speak, that he would leave the building. And, who knows if they needed him for whatever reasons. Okay. And there'd been mumblings and all that. And I had talked about this and written about it, that he wasn't the same. And frankly, it was, in my case, I wasn't saying anything that was out of this world. I said, look, this guy's lost it. Not mentally. I'm talking about his style, this bizarre, I'm going to talk about this and I'm going to talk about a high pressure system, but had that kind of style. And you can get away with that for a while. But it became nonsensical. It became, frankly, odd. It was confusing. And it was very shall we say, not unprofessional, but just plain old lousy. Martin knew that. He stayed on. They weren't saying anything. Why? Because they didn't want to consider the alternative, which was Roberta Gonzalez. I used to like Roberta Gonzalez, but she's not the same. That's why she's a fill-in. That's why she was never, ever even considered to be the number one person. She might get it now for a while until they figure out something. But that was one of the reasons why Martin hired her. And it was his, yes, he had power. He had little bit amount of glue there. It gave him another 10 years, basically. I mean, there's some outside factors that, you'll hear about if you want to read the bullshit in the Chronicle. Oh, this is a milestone. Well, it was. I'll give him this. Martin. He lasted longer than I thought he would. And in an industry which is chaotic, as TV news is, especially today, of course, he had longevity. He was a Cal Ripken of his kind. If you don't know who Cal Ripken is a baseball player, Hall of Famer, who worked and played baseball for many, many years and stayed on and on and on. He was just kind of a guy that played in a consecutive amount of games, thousands. And he basically got to the Hall of Fame because of that. Nothing else. Great player. He had a longevity record. This is Bill Martin. And I'm not going to sit here and just wipe off Bill Martin as some nimbod. He once had, shall we say, cachet. He was regarded as something more than a mere weather anchor. And he was. But look, we all have our moments. We all, whether it's television news or weather or sports anchor or being a plumber or a lawyer or what have you, when our mental faculties get to a point that we know it's time to say goodbye, sayonara, you know, TV news, a little bit different because you're interacting with the public. You're developing a style. You developed a style. It's no longer as lucid. It's no longer as popular or as non-regimented as you made it out to be. That's the deal with Bill Martin. Jovial guy, wasn't doing anything, wasn't getting a cure for cancer or diabetes or anything like that. He was a weather anchor, had a little bit of a jovial spirit. Nice guy, personality with the glasses, local guy, Cal guy. Liked to go on shows, radio shows, when we had radio in the Bay Area. Talk about his surfing fun. Liked to go surfing. Wonderful. Had a knack for talking to the anchor, whether it was Dennis, the limited time Dennis Richmond would interact with the anchors, or Julie Hayner. They were the core four because, and this I'll give them credit for, a lot of them, all of them, whether it was Ibanez and Julie Hayner, Dennis Richmond, you know, who am I leaving out? Somerville. They all were successful because they developed a style. They were able to turn the 10 o'clock news into a vaunted, and I do mean vaunted, powerhouse long before Bill Martin came. 10 o'clock news with Richmond and Elaine Corral and people like that. It was big, so big, it accounted for, think about this, 1% of the overall gross earnings that Cox Media used to own KTVU before Fox took over in 2014. God, it's been over 10 years now. But anyway, going back to the power and the absolute masterpiece under the kinship of people like Fred Zender, the news director at the time, and Tim McVeigh, and of course, Kevin O'Brien, who programmed KTVU. Martin began in that era, and he and Richmond and Ibanez and and Julie Hayner later on, they were the so-called Core Four, and they had longevity. And the 10 o'clock news was KTVU's breadwinner. It became the singular newscast. Everybody tried to copy from it, not just in this market, but beyond. And granted, we're talking about a long time ago. The stories were a lot longer. You had segment two, you had much more dedicated, much more pristine reporters. Any event, I don't want to go on and on about that. Martin was a part of that core four. He did the weather, Ibanez was sports, Julie Hayner was part of the news anchoring, and of course, Dennis Richmond. Then Dennis retired, and then Somerville came aboard. And thus you had the beginning, and right now, probably figuratively speaking, the end of KTVU's reign. Now, do they still do well? Not so much in the evening, in the mornings, which they've always had as a stronghold, yes. But basically, what this all means now, and it's been going on for years, I've talked about this, written about it. They're all gone now. So basically, KTVU has to figure out a new device, a new mechanism, which frankly, they don't have the people there, folks, to do that. If it happens again to where they can be successful, it's going to be because it was accidental. Certainly not going to be because they know what they're doing. They have no clue as to what they're doing. They have people that shouldn't be there, like me back, who is a complete and utter disaster. And I say that because it's true. Completely just not ready for prime time. And they have other people there who are just frankly don't have the capability, but they continue to ride with what they think is successful. It is not. Why do you think they try shit programs, embarrassing crap like it or not? Because they have no clue what the hell is taking place, and they are incapable of putting together a decent news operation. They are by no means alone, but they're very evident now because they just have no confidence whatsoever. And they being the people that work there, who have worked there long, continue to work there. Some of them have retired. I'm talking about people now in the newsroom, producers, writers, editors. They understand what's taking place. The good people at KTVU are slowly leaving. They want nothing to do with it. Some are hanging on because frankly they need the money, and you got to feed the family, that kind of a thing. I'm talking about, again, editors, reporters, some of whom you shake your head. How can they stay on? Okay, so 10 o'clock news is gone now, pretty much. There are other people who are going to follow. Probably a couple of reporters going to follow Martin's lead. That should have been long gone, many, many moons ago. But this now is about what is happening at KTVU, and this has been going on for at least 5 years. They have no confidence in the GM. They have no confidence whatsoever in this news director. They get by, folks, largely because they have Fox, which owns this station, and O&O, and they have the programming on Fox as lead-ins, and of course, football, the NFL, and assorted other things, but mainly NFL football. They have college football, they've got baseball every now and then, the World Series, etc. Well, they have the World Series lot. So by Martin leaving, this is KTVU's bye-bye, their holy grail, if you will. So I thought I would give you, I may have went a little too long, but at least now you know the real deal, not the BS, not the saccharine, not the crap, that if you go on SFK and read their flowery bye-byes, they're not going to give you what I just gave you. It's not in their product. They don't have reporters there who understand what I just explained to you. Maybe a little too long, but anyway, you get the idea. Okay, so if you like what you see and you would like to subscribe to my channel here on YouTube, please do so. And I continue to give you material information that you're not going to get anywhere else. Whether or not it's agreeing or disagreeing with my opinions, that's another story. But at least you get, when situations like these come about, you get the real deal for the most part. If you can make a donation to my site, that enables me to pay the bills. That enables me to give you this kind of a product, which is unique, sometimes not perfect, but we try. I try as much as I can to give you information, entertainment, scoops, and yes, the real deal and not the BS. So if you go up to my PayPal, click on it. Any donation is welcome, any amount is welcome. I appreciate it, and I will say as much. And thank you personally if you care for me to do so. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.